In this session, we're diving into branding, one of the most overlooked growth levers in home services. Your brand isn't just your logo, it's how homeowners decide if they can trust you. This session will show you how to build a consistent, professional brand that helps you charge more, attract better customers, and grow into new markets with confidence. Let's hear from the pros.
Hey everybody, welcome to this session. We're going to be talking about building a brand that scales and some basic concepts about building a brand, creating a brand, or if you're an existing company, bringing your brand into the 21st century. So my name's Chris. I own Northwest Moss Removal. We're an exterior cleaning and maintenance company in Seattle. And then I'm also a business coach with House Call Pro. I'm here with Kent. Kent, you want to give an introduction about yourself?
Sure. Kent Mortensen, System Clean over in Boise, Idaho, and 35 years of service businesses and now coaching as well. And definitely want to talk about branding.
Awesome. Well, Kent, when we talk about branding, there's kind of two major categories that we see a lot. You either have a new business owner who is just starting out. They maybe have a business that's 6 months old, a year old, a couple years old, and they maybe have a name or a logo that they paid somebody on $5 or $30 to make, and they don't really have a brand. They basically just have a business name that they made up or created, or they have a basic logo, sometimes not even a website yet, and they realize that having a cohesive brand that's recognizable is important. Then you have the flip side, which is you have a company like mine or yours that's 20, 30 years old, and maybe you want to update the brand or bring it into the 21st century or make it more oriented towards digital format or whatever it may be. And we want to talk a little bit about both. So to start off, why don't we talk a little bit about kind of what branding is? Because I think a lot of people hear the word branding and they don't really know the difference between what branding, marketing, and advertising are. So why don't you give me your take on it? Because we probably have similar ideas about it.
Well, you're obviously younger than me. So number one, you've purchased the company, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I started in my 20s, rebranded System Clean 3 times. When I was in my 20s, didn't realize that misspelling the name was not as clever as I thought, especially if they're trying to find you. And but it's actually worked out for us pretty good. And so I know you've got some really strong background and customers that have been around for a really long time because you purchased a business that's 30 years old. Mm-hmm. And now you're looking at branding differently. Yep. Branding for us before, when I started, was more advertising. You said, it's kind of the thing. I think branding now is actually knowing your customer. Yep. And moving towards that individual so that you can give them what they're looking for. And so creating trust.
I know before we started rolling, one of the things you mentioned to me is that when you're looking at building a brand, like, what is your opinion on how important it is to know things like your target client, your target audience, the core values of your company that you want to convey to those people? Like, let's talk a little bit about that, because I feel like a lot of people, when they brand a company, they think about like, oh, I want it to be cool looking, or I want it to look good on the truck wrap, or I want the website to look really professional. And they kind of forget that the very basic of business is figuring out what kind of client you want, that ideal client, and then creating a brand that is attractive to those people.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. So I think what I didn't realize in the beginning is I was branding for me, mm-hmm. not for the client. And so the takeaway for that is really be careful, know your client, because if you're branding for you, mm-hmm. You're buying the big truck, you're trying to be the individual that looks cool. Maybe you're branding for your girlfriend when you start out young.
Yep.
Me, when you start out older, maybe you're branding because you want to like dominate the market and really look great to your competitors.
Yeah.
Is that really your client? And so I think it is really important that you're building trust, mm-hmm. and branding goes beyond, for me, it goes beyond your labeling.
Yeah.
That needs to stay consistent, but it goes way beyond the labeling. So it goes, why does somebody hire Northwest, moss removal?
Yeah.
It's because they trust you. And same thing with System Clean. So when I realized branding was cleaner, happier, and that was our tagline, and people are like, how is cleaner, happier? And if you can move and kind of lean into that.
Yeah. Well, and like our tagline is your local exterior cleaning experts, because it conveys what we do, and it also conveys that we're a local company. And so for us, I'll give you an example. So when we sat down a couple years ago, me and my team, we were trying to figure out what is our ideal client. For those of you guys listening, if you haven't ever heard of the idea of an ideal client, imagine all the jobs you've done recently. Then pick the top 5 that are your favorite clients. They were easy to work with. They trusted you. They liked the work you did. And then create kind of an avatar of what those people look like put together. For us, for our company, our ideal client is a married couple in their 40s who both have full-time jobs, may or may not have kids, and they're in the middle to upper middle class. They have enough money that they don't want to do things like clean their own gutters, but they're not so high on the wealth spectrum that they're hard to deal with. Because all of us that own service companies know there's kind of a sweet spot in the middle. There's people that can't afford to work with you and they have to do a lot of things themselves. There's people in that middle to upper middle class that are usually able to afford your services, but we wouldn't necessarily call them rich. And then you have the very wealthy people that, yes, you can sell them really big, large projects, but they can be hard to deal with, or they have assistants and teams to navigate, and it's not always as easy. So for us, our target client, our like ideal client avatar, are those kind of middle to upper middle class that are normal people, that are easy to work with, friendly, they trust us, they let us into their home, they want us to handle a lot of things for them. So when we built our brand and we target our marketing, we want to convey a brand that is trusted, that is local, that is easy to work with, efficient, and it comes into all those different things, like how quick we answer the phone, how polite we are when we answer the phone, our technicians wearing uniforms that match our trucks not looking raggedy and run down and full of trash. And we try to convey that trust to people that don't know us, so that it matches the people that do know us and what the reason they want to work with us.
Okay. So pulling up in a wrapped vehicle with now your digitized face, which I'm seeing a lot of the young guys do.
Yeah.
That's branding, right? But does it brand going further?
Yeah.
So yeah, what are you doing on that?
Well, and you mentioned earlier that like a lot of people, when they start thinking about building a brand, a lot of you out there may have built a logo or a brand or whatever that you think looks really cool, but does it convey trust? Does it communicate to your ideal client the message that you want it to? A lot of construction companies, they have these big tough names and like buff guys and tools and stuff in their logos. And my first thought about that is always 75-year-old Miss Smith that lives alone, or her husband has round-the-clock nursing care, does not see that, and her first thought is not, I would let those people into my house.
They're still using paper if they're 75.
It's a little bit aggressive. And it's kind of a hard thing, because what you think looks really cool and what you think communicates this image that you're a big, well robust built company might not convey the trustworthy, friendly message that you want in order to target your ideal client. So if you don't have that kind of message conveyed through your branding, it's hard sometimes to land the ideal client that you want.
Right.
So moving on from there, that's kind of a message about the basics of it, but let's talk about scaling. So you have a brand that has...
Okay, wait a minute. I do want to address trust.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I think is a good takeaway from that is that we're instilling our, what do we call it? Our core value and our fundamentals that are within us, within our company. And so I think that's really important, because that's what's going to give you the individuality in your company when you're building brand. Yeah. And so it's so much more important than you think. Reaching out continually, doing the same things continually. So it's the constant. Yeah. It's the consistent, and especially when you're dealing with. I think you described a baby boomer.
Yep.
Because they have money now, they don't want to fall off a ladder. You're up there, you're going to pressure wash off the moss. People don't want to go and do work that we do. Maybe they can't. Maybe they're like me at 55 and their knee is bad and they can't get in the crawl space. And so just understanding your technician
Yeah.
Along with your customer, I think is critical. And so communication systems, understanding how to integrate your CMRs or CRMs. So how do you reconvey, or how do you reach back out to that client? How do you continue to develop trust, and so that your CSR, your lady on the phone, is aligning with your technicians, so she doesn't go, we're 10 weeks out, and he's at home going, I'd like some more work. I'd just like a little bit more work. And she's like, you told me don't X. And so I think that in itself is helps with your brand.
Yeah.
And so how do you speak to that? Because we're moving on from, I started out with cartoons. There's now cartoons again.
Yep.
We're using cartoon characters on the back of our trucks, but there are employees' faces, and we're digitizing them. And that's to make the employee feel good, but we're still clicking along with our bright orange, stuff that really pops. And I know you're doing the same. You're getting ready to rebrand. So what are you thinking about as you're doing that? What are your wow moments? What makes people go, this is what I need. This is what's going to make me memorable. I guess it's memorable, right?
Yeah. It's creating a brand image that is memorable. And we talked about that a little bit before we started working on this and recording. And I think that one of the things that's really interesting to me is that we talked about that earlier, that branding and advertising aren't quite the same, but branding affects your efficiency of advertising. So if you have a really memorable brand that really communicates the message that you want to your ideal clients, those people see your trucks driving down the road every day. They see them at their neighbor's house. They see flyers. They see door hangers, whatever it is. And they might not see your truck drive by and say, oh, I need my carpets cleaned, and pick up the phone and call you. But 6 months later, when they think, oh man, I need to get my carpets cleaned, they go on Google and they Google carpet cleaning near me, and they see a list of 5-10 names pop up, and they recognize your name because they've seen your brand everywhere. And it's funny because you see that every day. I mean, some of the biggest brands are the simplest but most memorable brands. I mean, you think about brands like JCPenney or Macy's or Starbucks or McDonald's. Their brand is not complicated, but it's simple, it's cohesive, it's memorable. And you could see a Starbucks logo from 100 feet away, and every day, and you'd know it's the logo for Starbucks. Same with any home service company. If you have a brand that is memorable and it's cohesive, meaning your uniforms match your trucks, that match your flyers, that match your website, when people go to look for services and they recognize your brand, it gives you a little bit of a leg up, because then they click on your name instead of your competitors.
Right. So what we decided when we rebranded, and talking to you as you go through your rebranding, I have an identical twin brother, and we started 2 businesses, one called System Tech and one called System Clean. We use the exact same S. System Tech is a low voltage teledata cabling company. This S had a lot of awareness in the Boise Valley. But after time, we had to really step apart, because people are like, why are you using a brushy looking S for that company? So we rebranded that business so it looked more technical. And that really helped his movement for people to see. And so I think it's more, in my mind, it's like when they see your logo, they see your employee, the brand is the wow moment. So what do they think about? What do they feel? How do they feel trust? And so the logo for me is like, this has been a 35-year evolutionary logo. However, I think the thing that we branded the most was trust, our core value fundamentals, and what was our unique selling advantage. So I thought, we'll change the name Clean, because K is a little better than CLEAN, but it took a lot of years to do that. And basically, you don't want to send the wrong message or create a branding that seems outdated. White trucks, maybe a little creepy showing up, but I've seen guys who've branded with white label, I call it white plain wrapper, and that's their branding, because shows affordability, I mean, branding's expensive. You're talking about branding, you know. Have you even thought about what that's going to take to rebrand a 30-year-old business?
Yeah, I know the numbers. So when we go to do our top to bottom rebrand, it's going to cost us somewhere between $30,000 and $80,000.
Most guys start with less.
Yeah.
They're a painter and they become a pro, and we're talking 30 to 80. So for a 30-year-old business, maybe it's okay. So they might want to do some thinking before they start their branding.
Yeah. And that cost isn't like I'm writing one check for that whole amount, but when you talk about a full rebrand, you're talking about the designer to help you do all the design work. You're talking about uniforms for the crew. You're talking about truck wraps. You're talking about an updated website, print marketing, and so many of these different things that all tie that brand together. Because if you're going to invest the money and time into rebranding, you have to make sure that you do everything. Because if you rebrand and then you have, say, 5 trucks on the road and you update your website and get the guys new t-shirts, but you don't rewrap the trucks, now you're driving around with 2 different names and a confusing brand image.
Yeah. Aren't you scared a little?
Yeah.
To rebrand?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I get nervous. Like, every time I go to change the name, like it used to be System Clean and Restoration. It took probably a solid 2 years to get people to remember that we did flood restoration. Yeah. And our primary core is restoration. Yeah. The carpet cleaning, the air duct cleaning, all of that is secondary. Yeah. And so I was like, did I blow it on branding? Sometimes it takes some time. So as a legacy business, you said you're a little nervous on it. So it's got to be thought out, right, as you go through. Yeah, because we have a very similar kind of set of problems where we have a company that's been around since 1993, 1994, and we have a company called Northwest Moss Removal. Because for the first 20 years the company was in business, the only thing we did was roof cleaning and gutter cleaning. And in the Seattle area, Pacific Northwest, the main thing that entails is removing moss, algae, and lichen from roofing. Everything is composite shingle roofing. It grows this big, thick, clumpy moss, and it has to be remediated. Otherwise, you end up with damage and insurance problems. And we get people that call us every day where their insurance is going to cancel them. And the thing is that over the last 5 to 10 years, we've also added pressure washing, window cleaning, gutter and exterior repairs and maintenance. We even do some full gutter and roof replacements occasionally. We're licensed as a general contractor, so we do some of that construction and repair work too. And it's interesting because I've thought about renaming the company completely to something like Northwest Pro Clean or Northwest Cleaning and Cleaning and Remediation, or all these different ideas. I haven't done enough market research to know what is available and what's not. Because that's another big thing, is you have to make sure when you rename your company, you don't accidentally rename it something that already exists in a different state and you end up with a cease and desist order. Oh my gosh. But for those of you out there, something that's interesting is when I talk to my marketing folks, we have hundreds of people a month that find our website and our social media pages by Googling the name of our company. Yeah. So if we change the name of our company, we potentially lose a lot of opportunity for clients to find us. Whether it's existing clients that used us 5-10 years ago and are trying to find us again to hire us, or new clients that have seen our trucks, seen our branding, or their neighbor told them. We get a lot of referrals. And the idea of renaming the company is scary, because if you rename the company, you risk losing that sense of known, like people knowing you in the community. So if you do a rebrand, you have to do it correctly. And like I would probably end up hiring a company that specializes in branding. Like I'm not going to say anything on camera because we're not going to endorse anybody, but there are companies out there that's their thing, is they do rebrand for companies. Yeah. And you have to remember that involves market research, trademark research, research on the competitors in your area. I mean, it's not as simple as just going on ChatGPT and saying, give me a creative name for a company that cleans roofs. Yeah. Because there's so many different aspects to it that you have to manage. Yeah. So it sounds to me like your competitive, unique selling advantage, obviously, is your legacy, your age, and your name. Yep. So that would scare me, to be honest with you, to start changing things around. Yeah. We were really strong in, we're gonna like clean up and make your house more healthy and safer and all of that. And then we started to change that thought process to, hey, who are we really marketing to? Yeah. And so we wanted them to feel safe. We told our story. We wanted to refresh our mission, which wasn't just go out, do the work. We wanted to actually serve, and we wanted to align our brand within the community. Yeah. So hanging your signs on hot air balloons during your festivals, going out to the Boys and Girls Club and serving. And so people start to see that they're like, oh, that's a wow moment. That's their value. I can trust them. So that would be the takeaway that I would have if you're starting to brand your business, that you might have an outdated brand, but be careful. Be careful when you rebrand something that's old, and think about it before you brand early on. And so when you're 20 and you start a business, things can look really cool that may not look very cool when you get in your 50s. And so,
and speaking to the audience, one of the things that we talked about at the very beginning of this was the difference between rebranding a company that's 20 or 30 years old, and for those of you listening that are just starting out. And one of the things that I got told many years ago that I would strongly encourage you to consider is it's a lot easier to rebrand when you're a 2 or 3 year old company with one truck than when you're a 20 or 30 year old company like us with many trucks, lots of employees. The cost increases exponentially the larger the scale of your company is.
Right.
Rebranding a company that has 20 trucks on the road is a lot more work and a lot more expensive than rebranding a company that's a couple of guys and 1 or 2 trucks.
Yeah, so what I just got from this whole takeaway is rebranding may not be what you want to do. So you're a little bored, you want to, do something different, you want to look good. Rebranding might not be what you need. Maybe your branding is like how you reach out to your customers, using somebody like House Call Pro, where you're reaching out and touching those customers more often. And that adds to it, so you're gaining more trust. It links in heavier to your fundamental and your core value and your beliefs. And that's really, I think, in the home service business is really where are you positioned within your market? Who is your market customer? How do you play in that market? And rather than to justify premium price, you show. You spend a lot of time showing. And so that's what I think, for me, that's what branding means. And so it doesn't necessarily mean just having the same logo, having the same haircuts. All that stuff's important. We did it. We didn't even allow beards when we first started out. We're like, everybody looks the same. If you think of Les Schwab Tire, everybody's in a white shirt and they want them to look dirty. And that makes people feel like you're working. And so I think that's my takeaway from all of this is if you're going to consider rebranding, maybe look back at what your brand is already, understand what your competitive advantage is, who you are. The logo might be the smallest part of the brand. Branding's a whole lot more than changing a logo. I'm with you. All right, so we're gonna wrap this up. Kent, we've talked about a lot of stuff here. We've talked about bigger brands, we've talked about smaller brands, newer companies, existing companies. For those of you listening, like we said, a lot of you might be just starting, a lot of you might have a bigger company, but I think some of the key takeaways are your brand starts with the core values you have as a company, your ideal client and how you can build trust with those people, and making sure that you have a brand that is cohesive, consistent, and scalable. Because whether you're rebranding a larger company or you're finishing or starting a brand for a smaller company, it's so important that you have a brand that is cohesive, consistent, and matches, and that is going to be scalable as your company grows. And I think that really does start with trust, building trust with your clients, and communicating to your ideal clients what your values are as a company, and making sure that your brand communicates those things to your ideal clients. And I think if you can do that, everything else is easy. That's the hardest part. I absolutely agree with it. So maybe a little curiosity about why your business is doing what it's doing. Branding's way more than a logo. I think we hit that. Is it important to rebrand? Is it time to rebrand? What's the cost of rebranding? How do you integrate your new automations? Because legacy businesses like mine, when we started with paper, that was different than it is now. So people really expect that communication. I believe that's part of your branding. And we're on our way. Text or however we're doing it, that all plays into who and what your brand is. And I think we hit it great. That no single person is going to come up probably with the exact reason why you did what you did, but if you can convey it and you can create trust and more retention, you want them to remember you. They say that a customer after a service business leaves, it's like under 9 seconds or something that they can recall your name if they're not a recurring customer.
Yep.
And so you want them to remember your name. That's what brand's about for me.
Yeah. You want to build a brand that communicates to those ideal clients trust and your values, and you want it to be memorable, and you want it to be consistent.
Yep.
And if you can do that, I mean, I don't know about your feelings on it, but I think if you can do that, you're setting yourself above 90% of your competition, if not more.
Absolutely.
Because so many companies don't do that very well.
Dude, we got it.
For guidance building your hiring process or onboarding playbooks, or if you just want to trade tips with other pros, join the breakout rooms. Our team is there to help.